All right, everyone, we are back at CPAC 2022. It is day 2 of CPAC, and we're here with Michelle Woodhouse. Michelle is another patriotic American that is running for Congress.
Yes.
And she is running in Madison Hawthorne's previous district. So, Michelle, what policies are you running on?
Absolutely. Great question. Thanks for having me. The policies that are most important to Western North Carolinians are policies that I think are most important to all Americans. Right now, what we're running on is closing our border. We are seeing an incredible issue with fentanyl in Western North Carolina, so we have got to get that border closed. Secondly, we have got to end all of these mandates. A big part of our platform is making sure that we end the mandates, both vaccine and masks. And we want to get ourselves energy independent. We've got to open up the pipeline, especially based on what we're seeing in Ukraine. We've got to get the pipeline opened, and we're a big believer that it's time to investigate and prosecute Dr. Fauci for what he's done to this country.
Absolutely. I mean, the human rights violations with, even the Nuremberg Code, they put in these laws and they were essentially trying to make it so people would be protected from any type of experimental treatments. And
right.
We know these vaccines, they hadn't been tested properly. Everything was really rushed. They used it under an emergency authorization.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of policies or bills would you kind of get behind or maybe even write that would help support Americans' right to freedom of medical choice?
Well, and it's interesting. I don't know that we have to write any legislation because we have the legislation in place. We've just allowed the radical left to push it aside to be able to push forth their agenda. I made my career in pharmaceutical and medical sales. So I spent 30 years working off clinical studies, walking into physicians' office, trying to get them to use medications that had gone through the proper channels with the FDA. I have a consulting firm now and work with physicians across the country, helping them to run their practices. So you were spot on when you said this is an experimental drug. We are looking at this vaccine. I think if we look at it through clinicians' eyes, this is one big clinical trial. We don't have a control group.
Right.
The adverse events are being hidden from the American people, yet we're being asked and mandated to take this vaccine to keep your job, to send your children to school. Now we're seeing school districts across this country saying over the age of 12, the child can make their own choice to get the vaccine without the knowledge of their parents. So at the local level, I'm a big believer that this comes down to the states, and our state legislatures have to stand firm against it. And at the federal level, we are going to need to get involved to stop this. And the first thing is going to be getting Fauci out.
Absolutely. And even just how Fauci, the history of him with the testing on the dogs, the beagles. I mean, we're not beagles, we're not dogs. We want our rights to be protected. We don't want to be forced to be being vaccinated. Everything should be the patient's choice.
Absolutely.
This is, we hear the left talk a lot about my body, my choice
Right.
when it comes to aborting a baby, which really isn't their body. But where's the voice on our body, our choice when it comes to putting something in our body that we cannot remove, right?
Absolutely. Well, that's the mantra of the left, for thee but not for me. I mean, that you can see it. They're so hypocritical. This vaccine is yet another example of their hypocrisy. They don't want you to make a choice. They want to make the choice for you. This is all about governmental control, and they see this vaccine as yet another extension of being able to put people into the control of the federal government. I don't. If people want to get the vaccine, that's their choice. I've chosen not to get the vaccine. That's my personal choice. I just don't want to have to disclose that to the barista when I'm getting an oat milk chai tea latte at Starbucks.
Right.
Right.
What is it their business? What is your medical history their business? It's just so wrong. So here's another question I have for you. I'm a mother. I have a son who is in first grade this year, but he's being homeschooled. Why? Not only is it because of, there's all these mandates and whatnot going on across the board in many other school districts, which his was one of the only ones we fought it tooth and nail at the board meeting that they actually didn't do the masks, right? So technically I could have had him in the school, but because of what's been happening in the education systems with critical race theory and all of this, this progressive ideology being pushed on children in schools, do you have any plans of addressing the indoctrination of children in school settings with political ideologies? I mean, could you imagine if you had the Republican Party kind of cash cows of
They are.
unions and
Yep.
It's pretty bad. So, my next question, which is also a very important issue, near and dear to me, is the Second Amendment.
Absolutely.
What is your stance on the Second Amendment?
I think that we have to stand firm on the Second Amendment. When we hear members of the liberal media, we hear people on the left, politicians on the left, talk about coming to take our guns. There are those that say it, but the rest of them believe it. They just are smart enough probably not to say it. Western North Carolinians, we hold to our guns in one hand and our Bibles in the other. We really do. So
Right.
we are we are Barack Obama's worst nightmare in Western North Carolina because we cling to our Bibles and our guns.
Right. Right. So you fully support it.
Fully support the Second
You would never support
Amendment.
any red flag
Never
laws
support
or
and
any.
in fact, I spent some time this past week with a great group of college Republicans at Appalachian State University. It's in Boone. It's a pretty liberal town that was part of our congressional district, but has been since drawn out. But I spent time with these young people, incredible group, great questions. And one of the issues that they brought up around the Second Amendment was 18-year-olds not being able to buy a handgun, not being able to buy a pistol. And it was a really interesting conversation to hear their perspective on it, because they see that conservatives need to really need to push that issue and open that up, because as if they were active duty military, they'd have a handgun, but they can't go in and buy one.
Right.
So
right.
I think we need to look at fewer, if any, restrictions at all versus more restrictions.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that was kind of like all the controversy surrounding Kyle Rittenhouse. You know, he was a 17-year-old at the time,
Right.
attacked by a whole gang of like protester, rioter thugs that were coming at him viciously, and he defended himself. Was proven in a court of law, self-defense, innocent of any charges against him. But you know, why would a teenager not have that right to be able to defend their personhood?
Absolutely.
In any situation. So I definitely think that what you're talking about is a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to touch on, definitely. So thank you so much.
Oh my goodness! Thank you for having me.
Could you please tell people again where they can find you, where they can support your campaign?
Absolutely. You can go to woodhouse4nc.com.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. CPAC has been amazing.
Yes, it has
Incredible.
been.
Yes.
It's been amazing. There are so much people here,
I
so
know.
many people, and President Trump is lined up to speak.
Yes.
He's going to speak on Saturday, I believe at 7 p.m. So everyone, get ready for that. I'm sure tomorrow's going to be the biggest day of CPAC.
Absolutely.
And I will be broadcasting here tomorrow as well at CPAC Day 3. So make sure you guys check back at my social media channels, YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook. So check back in for more CPAC coverage. This is Millennial Millie signing off.